probably since 2006, I think. She's the director of the International Association for Journal Writing, and she also is a coach. So she is a writing for wellness coach and an author and speaker. And I have her contact information online, but I'm going to bring her live here right now. Hi, Lynda. How are you?
Great. Hi, Jane. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you, Jane. It's been a while since we've connected beyond Facebook.
Exactly. It's good to see your face. How is it on Salt Spring, by the way?
It's pretty good. You can, right out the window there is Fulford Harbor. I live on the south end of Salt Spring Island, and it's a good time to be a Canadian on the west coast of Canada on an island.
So you must be used to kind of the solopreneur living of, working from home and being sort of on your own a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Is that part of your lifestyle? Am I right?
It is, yeah. But a great part of my work as well involves travel to present at conferences and do training with teams and organizations. And of course, all of that has come to a drastic halt, like many other people's businesses and lives. So there's some navigating to do for sure.
Okay, so we have a few things that we're going to talk to about today. And the first one I wanted to talk to you is just so writing obviously has been a part of your life for a long time. How can journaling help people manage stress and fear?
Yeah. Well, obviously, we're living amidst really uncertain times that have us all going through many changes, many different stressors. We have the kind of collective stress of what's going on, but then that plays out in all of its unique ways in our own lives and families and communities. And journaling is something that we can use at any time for our self-care and stress management. It's been a tool I've used since I've been a teenager, really, and I used it in the first 10 years of my social work career to help prevent burnout in a high care profession. But the reason it can help us is because, one, it's accessible. We don't need any special tools. We don't have to go anywhere. We can do it at home. We just need a notebook, a piece of paper, a pen, or our computer. We can journal by hand or online. And it really gives us that chance to pause and check in with ourselves. How are we feeling? What are we thinking? What are we noticing? And that is a very mindful practice, and it helps us to come into the present moment. So much of our fears and worries are worrying about the future. How long might this last? How's it going to impact me? Will I be safe? Will my family be safe? Will
Oh my
my
God,
business survive?
you're making me think all these things.
I know. And so when we come into the moment and we come to our journal, we can do a few things. One, we can actually write about all those feelings, and it helps them to be released and externalized, which has value. It also helps us see them from different perspective. It's like, oh, this is what I'm thinking about. This is what I'm feeling. And so we can kind of experience our own emotions in a bit of an objectified way. So there's lots of reasons that journaling can help us manage stress, and there's a lot of research that actually supports this, scientific evidence that shows that when we write about our thoughts and feelings, not just today, I did this and I did that, but really taking a look at what's going on in our minds and our emotions and expressing them through language and words on the page, that it engages our resilience. It engages our own inner capacity for resilience and balance, and hence it can be very healing and restorative for us to do.
So is that more the physical act of writing, of putting the pen to paper, is what you're saying can take people to like a healthier place?
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if it's pen to paper or a keyboard. What's most important is the self-expression and the self-awareness that comes from that self-expression more than the medium.
Right. I found like when my mom passed away, one of my young friends, his dad had recently passed away, and I had been trying to express to him the process. And the morning that my mom passed away, a poem just came out of my mouth, like it just it came out of my thumbs.
Yeah. emotions, if we think of it from a neuroscience point of view, the emotional centers in the brain really recognize memories and stories and language. So it's all interconnected. People will often say, I've never written anything, and then they go through something that's painful or really emotionally full, and all of a sudden they're writing things they never even knew were in them. I remember a beautiful poem or writing that you shared on Facebook about being a mom and being a mom to teenagers, in particular
Yeah.
your teenage daughter. And it was so powerful because it's real and it's coming from our emotions. And there's an expression in the whole memoir writing area that, and journal writing, while we're writing personally for ourselves, sometimes people take that out into more public writing in the form of essays and blogs and poems and memoirs. And we're taught that if we write about our own experiences as honestly and as real as we can, that we touch something universal in the human experience. And so that's why something like that poem you put on Facebook, there was a lot of resonance with that. And it's because you could just feel how real that is. And I'm just
Mhm.
curious how you felt writing it. Like, did you feel some cathartic benefit of kind of getting those words out and expressing yourself that way?
Yeah, and actually, I did, which is why I ended up sharing it. But I found I felt very vulnerable sharing it because it was personal.
Yeah.
But also, I thought it might help other people
Hmm.
going through the same thing, the frustration of having a child who you see making mistakes and you want to stop them.
Hmm.
So, um, even now, I feel it kind of bubbling up, I guess, because of all the experiences we've gone through over the past few weeks. I feel like another one's coming out.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I hear you, and we can relate, and there is a vulnerability, and that's why lots of people never share their writing or are even afraid to journal for themselves. I've met people who they really have that instinct. It's human nature to want to get things down, express ourselves. Storytelling's an ancient way we've come together
Mhm.
and learned and healed together. And you think even in primal, in caves, people were making their mark on stones. It's not so unusual to want to make our mark. And so we have that instinct, and many people will say that they'll journal or write or whatever they want to call it. Some people don't even like calling it journaling, just to get it down if they're going through a hard time or a stressful time. But then as soon as things get better, they stop writing because the
Mhm.
need for that medicine, that need for that balm of writing it out and getting it down, it shifts as our circumstances shift. And
Yeah.
that's another thing we can do is really use our journals. It's a wonderful place for all that emotional catharsis and venting and getting it down, getting it out. But we don't just want to stay there. We want our journals to also offer the resilient side of things and be able to write about, for example, to write about what brings us joy, to write about what we're feeling grateful for, because all of those high vibration or high frequency emotions help strengthen our mental health. They help us tap into our resilience and hope and optimism. And of course, that's how we deal with some of the stressors in our midst, is to stay tethered to what's also good, what's also possible. And I don't mean that in a Pollyanna way, but in a really true doing that work to see what's available that couldn't be good, that even comes out of our adversities.
I
And
find I find, like, for me, actually, I probably use Facebook that way.
mhm, yeah.
A lot of the messaging that I'm feeling inside, I'm putting out there to try and keep people to kind of stay the course and support everybody right now. And
Mhm,
um, I have a client who's now a friend who became a death doula. She's a counselor, and she was saying that how people feel right now, anytime you're going through a big stress like this, you're going to be feeling 100 times more what you would normally. And so any internal feelings are all magnified.
Yeah.
And it's, I guess, the stress response, right? So we're talking about we're coping with the stress response by venting it out through writing, right?
Yeah. And we're also helping to calm our nervous system because the stress response is very primal. It's from that very old reptilian part of our brain, and our amygdala just fires, and our brains are wired to keep us safe. And so the stress response, is a very old part of our evolution, and it kicks us into that fight, flight, or freeze response.
Yeah,
And the thing is, right now, we're under perpetual collective, quite high stress. And so our systems are kind of staying on alert. They're staying on high alert because there's this danger, or an unknown sort of sense of danger or threat in our midst. And so part of what we're doing by engaging the language centers, and by writing and coming into the present moment through writing, and if we can take a deep breath while we do that, really take a good belly diaphragmatic breath, we help to interrupt that adrenal gland response that goes on in stress, where we have all that high cortisol and so forth in our system. And
yeah,
we draw on what can help the body naturally soothe and calm itself. So if you sit down with your journal and you just take a few breaths and really come into the moment, let the breath help you relax, let the writing help you relax, you're actually supporting your immune function. And because you're realizing that, okay, now I'm here, now I'm writing. In this moment, I'm safe. In this moment, I'm not under threat. In this moment, I'm holding my pen and writing down my thoughts and feelings. So a whole lot of things happen physiologically and neurologically to make that a very healthy pause to take.
hmm,
And the journaling, a lot of people will say they use Facebook as a form of journaling, and or that self-expression. The difference there is that it's now out in the public space, and therefore open to people's comments and interactions and agreement and disagreement, and that makes it a conversation, which is
right,
different than just that private personal place of self-expression. And there's no right or wrong, but it is a different experience because now it's in an engaged space versus a private personal space. And
right,
in our journals, ideally whatever we write is right. We're always the expert of our own experience, and then therefore it's a very empowering act. And so the only judgment that come might be the self-judgment or the inner critic, or why did I write that, or why did I think that, or why, then that's a big voice one might contend with. But as soon as it's out on Facebook, you got all of that vibration, and you're putting it out now in a space where everybody's pulsing at this high stress level.
yeah,
And so people may not be as censored or as thoughtful or as self-managed, and there can be a lot more firing off of comments that may or may not be, entirely helpful or supportive.
yeah. They're shooting from the lips.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so what are some mindful activities that we can do to help cope with COVID-19?
Yeah. There is an entire body of work around mindful writing that basically blends mindfulness practice and expressive writing. And there's many activities, but one I was just introduced to recently by an author and expert in the expressive writing field. He does a lot of healing programs with writing through Duke University and other places.
Yeah,
And he basically took the key words that are part of the mindfulness practice: awareness, attention, acceptance, affection, appreciation, and affirmation. And
hmm,
then created sentence stems that can become journaling prompts. And you can time yourself. We won't do this now, but it's something people could do who are listening, or maybe listen to this at another time. So, and again, it was John Evans who taught me this particular exercise. So when I think about COVID-19 would be your first prompt, I am aware of. Okay, and you could write for 1 minute on that. And the next one would be, when I think about COVID-19, I find myself paying attention to. So these are all A words: aware,
Yep.
attention. When I think of COVID-19, I accept that.
Yep.
When I think of COVID-19, I have affection for.
Hmm.
When I think of COVID-19, I have appreciation for. And lastly, when I think of COVID-19, I affirm that. And you simply use those. They're called sentence starters or sentence stems. You put them at the front of your journaling, set a timer, write, and see what comes. And it's amazing how many feelings and ideas and even gratitudes that can come around what's going on by using those simple but powerful journaling prompts. So I hope that people might give that a try. I know I did it, and I also did it in the moment when I learned it, and then I also have done it again since, and it's interesting.
Do you want to put those out again? I'm going to add them in at the bottom. So what are they again? What are the 5
When
sentence
I
stems?
when I think about COVID-19, I am aware.
Okay, I'm just going to write, I am aware. Yep.
I find myself paying attention to. I accept that.
Yep.
I have affection for.
Yep.
I have appreciation for.
Oops, hold on, I made a mistake. Yep.
I affirm.
Oh. Okay, so I'll just put those up here and they can just scroll through.
So just as an example, I can share with you my own journaling if you wish
Sure.
to hear it. And this was done in the moment. It's not censored. It's written. If you can see it scribbled here all over a piece of note paper. When I think about COVID-19, I am aware that I am scared it will harm people I love or myself, my mom in a care home. I'm aware of the huge financial consequences it is and could have on us and others. When I think about COVID-19, I find myself paying attention to the news, the politicians, people's responses, the number of deaths, the story of how this could be a reckoning, a turning point in humanity. When I think of COVID-19, I accept that I can only control taking precautionary measures in our family. To practice self-care is also to help my children honor the prevention protocols at this time. When I think of COVID-19, I have affection for my family, victims, their families, the doctors, nurses, first responders, and politicians who are dealing with this on a daily basis. When I think of COVID-19, I have appreciation for our home, living on an island, clean water to drink, food in our fridge, my husband, gratitude practice. When I think of COVID-19, I affirm that we will get through this. We will thrive. This pandemic is going to represent a significant turning point in my life, in our family's life, in the world, in humanity.
That's awesome.
So, but if I wrote that now, or if we did that exercise together, a whole new string of thoughts and feelings would come based on what's here, right now. That was a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's writing really brings us what's here right now and
Right.
helps us stay connected to that, stay connected to ourselves. It helps us stay grounded, and it helps us not be tossed away. All these fears and stressors can be so overwhelming. We
Right.
need things that anchor us. And that's why I love a gratitude journaling practice, because it can be used, for example, to really set our morning. We can start, like I always start the morning by really embodying a feeling of gratitude, and there's nothing too small to be grateful for, like being alive, having another breath, waking up, um, those, and then on so on. But what it does, we can also use it to set our intentions for the day. So
Yeah.
today I'm going to try to stay calm even when my kids are fighting and going nuts with this self-isolation, was true about 5 minutes before getting on this video. So, um, and so setting intentions for the day is another way we can use our journal, really deeply connecting with what we're grateful for, because what we focus on grows. So if we can keep strengthening our experience of gratitude, we're strengthening something very important, not just in ourselves, but in our environment as well. And then it can be used at the end of the day. What was my learning from today? What do I want to remember that was good from today? What am I grateful for from this day? And Dr. Wayne Dyer taught us the power of the last 5 minutes. That
Mm.
whatever we put into our thoughts and mind before we go off into sleep, it comes with us into our dream time. It comes with us into the quality of our sleep. And so if the last thing we think while we're lying to bed is, am I going to live through COVID-19? Or, are people then that's all there. And we can help to mitigate that by replacing it with thoughts that are more supportive, like give us that scaffolding of our own inner strength and resilience. And it only takes a few minutes, and it really can make a big difference to how we can really use our journaling practice to support strong starts and strong ends to our day.
So is that what you refer to as the life source writing?
Life source writing is actually a specific journaling method that I teach and created. I wrote a little workbook on it. Um, and it's a reflective journaling practice that has 5 steps, and they're very simple. The first step is to arrive. So literally when you go to your journal, take that moment to say, here I am. Because while you're doing that, you're not doing this, 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 and this. So you're inviting, a non-multitasking moment. So arrive fully. It's a mindful approach to the start of your journaling. And the second step is to relax. And when we're relaxed, we're more able to write. We're more able to be self-expressive and creative. And of course, that helps with the whole stress response.
Yeah.
And you can do that by just taking some belly breaths, coming into the breath. People have lots of their own ways for doing that, but intentionally come into that moment of relaxation. You might just notice the seat beneath you, the surface beneath you, let it support you. There's all kinds of techniques for doing that, but the breath is probably the easiest and quickest one. Sometimes when I have workshops and have time to really walk people through this, I'll take them through guided visualizations and guided meditations to really, help that whole mind body relaxation. And
Mhm.
then the third step is to write, to actually engage in writing about thoughts and feelings. You can use prompts, you can use anything at all, quotes. I sometimes will pick up like a heart card, or I have all kinds of different card decks, but so this is one. It says, remember, be the light. You can pick up little things and just let them be the start of your journaling, and off you go. A really easy one is just to do, right now I notice, or right now I feel, and
Mhm.
open in, because the blank page can be a pretty daunting place for people. Sometimes people are quite intimidated, like, what do I write about? What do I say? Am I doing this right? And just that full permission just to, trust yourself and go into the writing. And the fourth step with life source writing is to reflect. It's an inquiry process where after you've done some writing, you actually pause and ask a question, any question at all. So you could simply ask, what I notice about what I wrote is, or what I feel about what I wrote is, or, writing about this makes me want to da, 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 da. Whatever it is, pause and reflect, be curious, have a question, and then write some more. And that's known as a inquiry loop, a feedback loop. And it's quite powerful, the types of insights that can come. So for example, after you wrote that beautiful poem about your daughter, to pause and say something like, um, what I notice about how I feel about my daughter right now is, or writing this down gives me a chance to change X. And actually write some more and see what comes.
Yeah.
And the last step is to affirm, to just take a moment and bring a closure to what you've done. And you might take a moment and say, I'm grateful for this moment, to write and reflect. Anything at all that brings closure. And so it's a bit of a map so that there's some structure and a container to the writing practice. So for example, if we go to a yoga class, we don't just walk in and go into warrior. We go in, we get our mat, we sit down, we connect with our breath, and we move more deeply into the practice and come out the other side in shavasana, or lying still. There's a process of entering, going deeper, coming out the other side, namaste. And it's the same with the writing practice. We come in, we arrive, we settle in, we start writing, we do the work, and we come out, with the other side. So it's meant to be a progressive, holistic practice.
Sounds very much like my teaching strategies, actually, when I went through teaching. So we were focused on a very reflective practice. I was thinking today, though, even though I identify myself so much as a teacher, that it's been almost 15 years since I was in a classroom. But it's amazing what you're saying. I notice, I think all day, every day, and and in my job as a realtor now, a lot of people say, "How can you stand driving all the time?" Well, I spend a lot of that time just reflecting, honestly, and
Yeah.
thinking about things and enjoying the moment. So, my husband and I were talking today about how much we're really enjoying just every night. We have dinner with our kids now. We were really disconnected. So, I mean, that's the best thing that's come out of this is we are spending all day, every day with them. We each do a chore. And, when I'm reflecting, I get up in the morning and we have our duties and our household duties that we have to do, but also, what do I want to do today? Like today, I really want to walk my dog. So
Mhm.
I'm going to go out and walk my dog. And that's kind of my other place to just relax. We
Yeah.
have some comments here from some people. Um, Lori Shields writes, "This morning I wrote all heads of states had laid down their swords. They are caring for their own. We are growing closer to one another. Now more than ever, what will the world be like after this? At bedtime, I say to myself, I am alive. I cannot change things at this moment. Bring peace to me and my loved ones. I choose to sleep. I choose to allow rest." Isn't that nice?
It's beautiful. Lori, thank you for sharing that. And Jane for reading it. And you can see the power of words, just how it feels to have that read. Words really have a lot of resonance to them.
Yeah.
And you said something really important, Jane, about the, you know, being in that constant reflective practice as a teacher, how habitual that now is in your life, even though you're not in the classroom, you're a teacher every day. And you're a teacher in your family and the work you do here right now, you're creating space for conversations. The conversations is the work together, really listening and sharing ideas and stories. And it's just that a lot of people don't take that pause. What did I learn today? How am I doing? And the other that you said that stood out for me is asking ourselves the question, what do I need today? What do I
Mhm.
want today? I have Jane, I do a lot of work in the area of burnout prevention. And one of the key elements that will trigger the onset of burnout is when our own needs become secondary to everything and everybody else. And there's this sort of self abandonment and a deprivation around simple things. Maybe people used to take a lunch break and now they don't, or maybe they used to,
Mhm.
and so these little subtle deprivations that start to become normal. And we no longer are asking, what do I need? What do I want? And if we're asking, we certainly aren't taking the step to do it. So when you said, what do I want today? I want to take my dog for a walk. And presumably you did it, or you will. The day's not over yet.
I will.
That in that moment, you're honoring a need you have, right? You're coming to what the self needs and wants. But over time, if we don't do that, don't do that, don't do that as a habit, we just don't respond to our needs and wants that are often very basic and part of what restore us, then we can move into that real state of depletion and burnout, and get really resentful that one's needs aren't being met, and yet really the first point of stopping to meet them often came from ourselves, from
Yeah.
so it's all interconnected, and our journals are a place to explore, what do I need, what do I want, and then of course to go do those things, write about them, and then take action. I always say with journaling, so what, now what? And that's where the coach part comes in. It's like, well, now that I have this awareness, because I've written about it, and now what action am I prepared to take?
Exactly. So for those who want to get in touch with Lynda, you are welcome to. And do you offer any coaching programs for people right now?
I do. I have one starting on May 5th. It's called the Transformational Writing for Wellness Salon. And it's a 6-week group coaching program. It has a special price rate now with $50 off. And our members, the IJW is a membership community for journal writers worldwide. They get another 20% off. But it's really a great program. We use people join from all over the world. I've run it many times, and I take you through a guided week by week process, teaching you all different writing approaches you can use, and there's things on self-care and gaining clarity, and all kinds of different things. It's really fun. I had one woman, she took it twice, and I said, Sandy, it'll be the same content as when you did before. She goes, I know, but I loved it so much. And she did the whole thing again. She's like 83. She's awesome.
And I think, though, when you take it again, it's not the same thing. It's exactly what you said, right?
Yes, I know, but I wanted her to know it'd be the same videos and the same writing exercises. But I'm active in that. So I coach into people's writing, what they share. So people have their own individual experience of being coached and working together, and then the collective experience of feedback and support. And it's really a wonderful 6 weeks. And so that's what I'm excited about, and that starts coming up in May.
Cool.
But there's lots of free things on the website, and all kinds of different resources there, and our blog, and
What is your website?
iajw.org.
Oh, is that your website?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, now you're just like elevated higher up in my I don't know, my perception of you is just like so much bigger.
There's the word international, Jane. It'll do it to any of us. All I really need is I'm constantly trying to figure out time zones. But thankfully, our members are very good sports. They join in their pajamas when they're in Australia. So thank you, Lynn, Clarissa.
Well, I have to say the best thing that's come out of COVID-19, just reflecting today, is meeting other realtors internationally and talking about real estate across the world. It's been so amazing. And then connecting with business people like you and bringing them into the fold to help others and sort of disseminate information that's helpful to everybody. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Stay on the line because we're going to chat just a little bit after this. But if you want more information, how do they get in touch with you? So they go to
iajw.org. And my other website where I do my burnout prevention work is lyndamonk.com, LYNDA monk.com.
Okay, awesome. Everybody, take care. Tomorrow we're going to have Beverly Carter. She's a notary public in Victoria. She's going to be talking about how she's adapted her business to deal with COVID-19 and how to cope with COVID-19. Maybe that's what we should be calling these talks. And then later on in the week, we're looking for more people. So if you are a business owner or coach and you want to talk to the community about how to cope with COVID-19, we want you here on Community Talks. I'm Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at Remac Coastin. Take care. Have a great day. And thanks, Lynda, for an awesome, awesome talk.
Yeah, thanks, Jane. It's great to be together. Take care, everybody. We can do this.